Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, this is a question that I don't get as frequently as I should because I think a lot of you may not be aware of this. And this actually came up in a couple of conversations I had with people this past week about issues completely unrelated to NFA items where I learned of a major snafu that could have subjected them to criminal liability. See, a lot of people don't realize that if you have an NFA item, you can't just take that across state lines willy-nilly. You actually need ATF's blessing. So today, we're going to spend a few minutes to talk about how to transport NFA items across state lines. Okay, so the issue I'm talking about today is NFA items, okay? And can we transport them across state lines? And if so, how do we do it? Now, let's first define what the NFA, National Firearms Act of 1934 is. The NFA regulates certain types of firearms, which requires heavy amounts of federal oversight, tax stamps, all sorts of additional background checks. They include short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, suppressors or silencers, machine guns or automatic weapons, and any other weapon or other destructive device. Now, most people are going to probably have the two most common, I should say, NFA items that people do own are short-barreled rifles and suppressors. And both of those, for my Washington viewers, are completely lawful to own so long as we have complied with the applicable federal laws. Now, where we run into this problem, however, is if we decide that we have to move to another state, or for my folks in Spokane, my folks down in Vancouver, Washington, if you decide you're going to go over to Idaho or go down to Oregon to go shooting, if you take an NFA item with you without prior ATF approval, you're in major trouble if you get caught. Okay, so here is a clear and concise rule of law that you can remember. If we want to transport any NFA item except a suppressor across state lines, we need to fill out a Form 5320.20 in advance of that trip because we have to get ATF approval before we can make that. So if we want to transport a short barrel shotgun, a short barrel rifle, an automatic weapon, or some other type of destructive device across state lines, either temporarily or permanently for any reason, we have to get our blessings through the 5320.20. If we have a suppressor, however, for whatever reason, suppressors are not subject to this act, and therefore you do not need the 5320.20 to take a suppressor across state lines. Now, there are some very particular rules that the ATF has about filling out the 5320.20, and if you don't follow the rules, obviously the application is going to be rejected, and then you're going to make that trip without your NFA item. So please pay careful attention to some of these. A written request and prior authorization from ATF to transport interstate or in foreign commerce any destructive device, machine gun, short barrel rifle, or short barreled shotgun is required under the provisions of federal law. A letter of request in duplicate containing all information required on this form may be submitted in lieu of the form. So yeah, you can submit a letter instead of using their form, but I would actually recommend that you use the form. Now, how you submit the form and the way you submit the form, they're very picky about that, so pay attention to this. The registered owner of the NFA firearm shall complete 2 copies of ATF Form 5320.20 and forward the forms to the Director, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, 244 Neely Road, Martinsburg, West Virginia, 25405, attention NFA Division. This form can be submitted via facsimile, or what we like to call fax, to the NFA Division, and there's a number listed right there, or emailed to nfafax@atf.gov. And then there's other conditions, so pay careful attention to these. All signatures on both copies of the form must be in ink. All other entries on the form shall be printed in ink or typewritten. The original ATF Form 5320.20 will be returned to the registered owner. Approval authorized the registered owner to transport the designated firearm only during the time period specified in item number 3. And item number 3 on the ATF Form 5320 is the dates for which you will travel. So you get to set the confines of when that item is going to be out of state, and then you have to stick within the confines of what you put on your application to ATF. Now there's more, including this. In the event item 2 is checked yes, and the firearm is not returned to the original location by the date specified, the registered owner shall submit a new application on Form 5320.20 to receive approval to return the firearm. So yeah, if you're going to Oregon for a month and it turns out you stay 2 months, you're going to need to fill out a 5320 now to take it back home to Washington or wherever else you may be. Now, this all came to my attention because I was talking to a gentleman who had lived in Georgia, had gone through a bit of a nasty divorce, had to move out, relocated to Florida because he got a job down there. Ex-wife sells the house out from under him, and at the last minute, he has to run back up there and grab some of his personal items, including some firearms that he left behind, including an SBR, which he then took back to his home in Florida. We were talking about something completely unrelated, and he mentioned that this has occurred, and that's when I kind of had that hit the brakes, oh my God, what did you just say? And that's when I had to explain to him about 5320.20 and what he may or may not have done. The bottom line is this. If you are going to transport a short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, automatic weapon, or other destructive device across state lines for any reason, for any duration, you will need to get ATF approval through the 5320.20 before you depart on that trip. If you have a suppressor, this rule and this law does not apply to you. Listen, you may have more questions about NFA items or anything else related to your Second Amendment rights, and if you do, remember, you can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or of course you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay safe.